Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer, and today I'm joined by Savio Rodriguez, the editor of the Goa Chronicles. Savio, welcome to P Guru's channel.
It's a pleasure to be back here, Sri. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure again, Savio. You bring forth a lot of in-depth ideas and leave something for the viewer to think after the session is over. Viewers, Savio was one of the few who actually got in touch with the World Health Organization. He connected with the organization's top person, and he had an opportunity to interact with them to get the understanding of how things work in WHO, and whether it is right or appropriate for the world to term Dr. Tedros as somebody who is who's basically talking the language of Chinese. I mean, for that, we need to understand the whole picture of how WHO was formed and so on and so forth. So here is something that clarifies a lot of those things and sets the perspective correctly. And Savio, take away the floor. It's yours.
But thanks so much, Sri. The interesting aspect of the coronavirus pandemic and this series of accusations and counter accusations and searching for somebody to blame got me into investigating various aspects of the stakeholders within the coronavirus pandemic. The main stakeholder, of course, is the World Health Organization, because the World Health Organization is a global body, and its primary responsibility is to detect and prevent health crises. The other stakeholder is China, and the rest of the stakeholders are the 194 states that have signed together and have come together to agree to the World Health Organization. So when a health crisis happens across the world, the World Health Organization, better known as WHO, gets into action. And everybody assumes that the World Health Organization will save the day. Unfortunately, the World Health Organization is not that kind of an organization. It's not going to save the day. It is not going to come out like a Superman and deal with the health crisis in the aggression and the assertiveness that is required to deal with the health crisis, because it does not have the powers in sovereign countries to even execute an investigation. For example, let's look at this aspect of it. Everybody is blaming China for the Wuhan virus, or the Chinese virus as it's called. If you were to tell the World Health Organization that please go and investigate the origin of the virus in China, they will not be able to do that, because the Chinese would have to give them permission to do that. Let's assume that the virus originated out of the US. And if the World Health Organization needed to go to the US and investigate, they would not be able to do that, because they would have to take the permission of the American government to do an investigation. So in my understanding and interaction with the World Health Organization personnel over the last almost 12 days, on different points of questioning, I realized that the World Health Organization is nothing but a toothless tiger in the United Nations Zoo. It is governed by the International Health Regulations of 2005, which is a document signed by 194 states. And it does not give the World Health Organization any powers. The powers for investigation of a health crisis actually lie with the country in which the health crisis actually originates. So let's say, for example, when China reported on January 14th that there's no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission, when I questioned the World Health Organization about that, Dr. Tedros himself said that, listen, it is normal for us to take a report and post it as is. So they took the report from China, which said there is no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission, and they posted it on the social media platform Twitter as it was. So if India was to give them the similar report, they would post it as is. If Ethiopia was to give them that report, they would post it as is. If they neither disagree or agree with it, If they have a problem, they claim they would have raised an issue about it. But they did not react to it at all. They did not agree. They did not disagree. They just took the report and posted it as is. So they, on their own, did not conduct any hardcore investigations. If at all they have gone to China, they have done 3 joint missions since the coronavirus pandemic has started. 3 joint missions with the Canadian, with the Chinese, health officers, and also with some guests from Germany, Japan, a few of the other invited representatives into the joint mission. They've done 3 of them so far in China, and at the end of it, they've come out saying that China has dealt with the health crisis very well, and the rest of the world needs to learn from China. But they have not touched on the origin of the virus. They tend to focus more on the fact that it's come out from the wet market rather than the lab. Nobody even talks about whether it came from a lab. It always points towards the fact that it is from a wet market. And also, they never talk about how it actually spread globally, because they don't know. Nobody knows how it spread globally. Now, you would expect that the World Health Organization, which is, as you were young and you were growing up, you would have thought, you have a World Health Organization, their job would be to detect, prevent, and investigate a health crisis. But if you ask the World Health Organization, how is it spreading across the world, and how did it spread? If China did such a wonderful job of containing the coronavirus pandemic at Wuhan itself, then how did it spread to the rest of the world? They don't have an answer for that because they don't know. They have not investigated, and they cannot investigate because they don't have the powers to investigate. So every statement coming out of the World Health Organization is a statement that comes out after a health crisis. It is nothing that has happened before or during the prevention of a health crisis. It is something that they say that, okay, we must do this, the countries must do this, we must wear masks, we must ensure lockdowns are adhered to, or in some countries we must look at X, we must look at Y. But there is never a clear plan. There can never be a clear plan because that's an organization that does not have a clear plan of dealing with the health crisis, because even the World Health Organization does not know the nature of the coronavirus. And that's the brutal fact. So everything around the World Health Organization that you are made to believe that, yes, it's their fault, yes, they are responsible. I think it's a collective responsibility of the entire 194 states that have empowered the World Health Organization in their limited scope of work. If today you want a health body to tell you and to take you through a health crisis from the point of origin to the point of its dying, then they need to have certain powers. They need to have the right to go into China or wherever they claim this virus has originated. You and I can sit and speculate, Sri, that Dr. Tedros is close to China. He is close to China. There's undenying that aspect. That China also helped him win the Director General post. It is no hidden secret that the Director General before him was a Chinese. But if you put all that into understanding and you say, okay, here's the World Health Organization, the body that's supposed to deal with the crisis, it cannot deal with this crisis. It does not have the powers to deal with the coronavirus pandemic because it cannot infringe on the sovereign rights of a country. So if people are expecting World Health Organization to go into China and investigate, they cannot do it, and China is not going to allow it, even though they had 3 joint missions. Going into China and doing a joint mission with China is like investigating a crime with the criminal. That's the most absurd thing you ever heard.
Yes.
And I'm not casting aspersions on China, but let's be very honest about it. The virus originated from China. It is not a freak of nature. There are so many reports that link it to a lab. Now, if the Chinese want to hide this fact from the rest of the world, well, that's the level of shamelessness that they have. That's fine. The point is, the world will get to know about the truth at some point of time. The virus will always have a trace. If we look deep into it, every organism in this world will have a trace. So the virus will also have its trace. If the world firms up that they want to take action against China and really investigate it, that truth will come out. But the World Health Organization in its current format is not going to do that.
So now you were given an opportunity to ask them 3 questions, right? And I'm
Right.
curious, was one of those questions asking them an explanation on how come 21 million cell phones went missing in and around Wuhan area?
Oh, no. I'll tell you what are the questions I asked them. The first question I asked them was on the fact that if they had to go back in time, would they have called the coronavirus a pandemic earlier, or would they have still called it at the time when they called it? Now, here's the interesting part, Sri.
Hmm.
The, the word pandemic is not a response level action of the World Health Organization. As per their rules,
I see.
there is no such thing as a pandemic. It's not a response level action of the World Health Organization. Now, this is very important. They called for the PHEIC, okay, which is a public health emergency of international concern, on January 30th, 2020. But they categorized it as a pandemic on on March 11th, 2020.
It took 6 weeks. Okay.
Right? So the public, according to the IHR rules, the PHEIC is the ultimate level of public emergency or global health emergency, not even the pandemic. It only categorized a pandemic on March 11th. Now, it's very interesting because most of the lockdowns did not happen after January 30th.
That's right.
Most of the lockdowns happened after they categorized it as a pandemic.
Correct.
Because even in India, we started the lockdown on March 25th.
Right.
But when I asked the World Health Organization, why would you go back and redo the decisions that you had taken? They were categorically clear that they had called for a global health emergency as per the international health regulations 2005 on January 30th, and that was the highest level of emergency. Now, somewhere between their rules and the communication with the rest of the world, there is something missing. Because, quite frankly, the rest of the world actually got serious about the pandemic only after March 11th.
Right.
Not before that. But the cases were happening before that. So, somewhere between the public health emergency and the pandemic, you had lost 6 weeks for the world to actually act. So when I counter question them, Dr. Tedros very categorically said we had given the world and the nations enough time post January 30th to respond to a public health emergency of international concern. That was his statement, and it's a statement that's recorded and it's there on their website as well. That we had given the world and the nations enough time to respond. Did the world actually accept on January 30th and initiate global lockdown around, say, the first week of February? The answer is no. It really started in the first week of March, and actually the second week of March is when most of the countries started to enforce a lockdown. Not before that.
That's true. And so, looking forward, what are the other 2 questions? Let's finish out the WHO questionnaires.
The second question was on the China tweet, which I already mentioned, which on January 14th, the World Health Organization put out a tweet saying that the Chinese health authorities state that there's been no clear human-to-human evidence
Okay.
of the coronavirus pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So we asked them, said, why did the World Health Organization put a tweet like this?
Mm.
You know, simply because what was the purpose? Did you not investigate? So they were very interestingly. That's what they said. One is that they took the report and pasted it as is because it came from a member state. So they didn't agree or disagree. This the supplementary answer to that question was on January 30th. January 13th, representatives of the World Health Organization themselves had made a statement, and on January 14th as well had made a statement in a press conference saying that there is a likelihood of human to human transmission of the coronavirus. Okay, this is 13th and 14th of January. When does the announcement of a public health emergency happen? It happens on the 30th. It waits till China confirms. China confirms that it has human to human transmission on January 20th. On January 22nd, World Health Organization then puts out a tweet message saying that there is evidence of human to human transmission. So they've spent a week before they make an announcement of human to human transmission, which they themselves had agreed upon on January 14th during a press conference. It is then on 23rd that they constitute the emergency expert committee, and on 30th, they reach a decision that it is a public health emergency of international concern. So in all this, of course, there is a question that will arise. Why did they delay in actually calling for a public health emergency of international concern by a week and waited for China to declare? But according to the World Health Organization, they did everything within their rules of the International Health Regulation 2005. The third question was on Taiwan, as to why did they not pay heed to Taiwan's warning? And in that they were a bit. It's a bit of a gray area, because Taiwan, in its main to one of the focal point areas, had said that there are certain atypical pneumonia cases that were that they read about on online, and Taiwan claims that they refer to atypical pneumonia as being SARS and having a human-to-human transmission capability. The World Health Organization, of course, denies that aspect of it, saying that not all atypical pneumonia cases are considered to be SARS or could be human-to-human, lead to human-to-human transmission. Number one. Number two, the mail was something that of information that the World Health Organization already had, because they were already getting information about cases of atypical pneumonia in China. So there was nothing new in what they said. Neither did they warn them. They only sent them a mail to a center, a focal point area in that region, and by which that mail reached the top head office of the World Health Organization. That's where it ends. But on the question on Taiwan's representative at the World Health Organization and the upcoming World Health Assembly, it clearly stated that it cannot do anything about it, because they follow the decisions of the 194 states. And according to whatever was decided by the United Nations and subsequently by World Health Organization, 194 states, China is only represented by the People's Republic of China, and Taiwan is a part of that according to them. It's not separate. So Taiwan cannot have its separate space. So these were really the three questions that were asked.
Well, I guess this kind of clears the air a little bit about the scope of functioning of WHO, what it can and cannot do. It is more like an advisory agency, and it relies on the country, the member country, to tell it what exactly needs to be told. So the onus is on the member country to forewarn the other countries. Essentially, that's where I think the clarity emerges from this conversation. Savio, it was a wonderful, wonderful talk, because we need to know where the blame lies. First of all, we need to solve the problem, which is to find some way to combat this. And my advice and suggestion is to become more, improve your immunity. And for that, there is a hangout I did with Dr. Shiva Ayadurai sometime in March. And basically, the long and short of it is vitamin A and D keeps coronavirus away. If you remember the old adage, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So, I think that is the thing. India is rich in vitamin D, sunlight, vitamin A, leafy vegetables, fruits, anything that has vitamin A in it. Let's just keep eating those things, stay healthy, and stay safe. Thank you very much, Savio.
My pleasure.
Hi everyone. In the current scenario with the spread of COVID-19, the printed books are on the verge of becoming outdated, and e-books are becoming the mainstream way of reading. You can now read our e-book, Who Painted My Money White, comfortably on the Kindle app on your phone or a tab. So now, I'm going to show you how to download Kindle on your phone. Firstly, open Play Store or App Store depending upon your phone. We are following Play Store process, though the process is similar for both Android and iOS. In the search bar, type Amazon Kindle. Tap the first result to open the application page and press Install. Once installed, press Open to start the application. Use your credentials to log in. If you were already logged into an Amazon account, then you will directly reach the welcome page for the app. Tap on Start Reading and then tap on Get Started. Now in the search bar, type the book name or the author name and it will show you the relevant results. Tap on the book and then tap on Read for free. iPhone users can buy the book at a discounted price of just Rs 199. You get a 30 days trial for the app on Android. Tap on the button. On the next screen, press Continue to reach the payment page. After entering your payment details, click on Place Your Order. Once the process is complete, it will show a message saying, "We are setting up your membership." Pressing the cross on the top right corner of the screen will take you back to the book results page. Tap on the book and then tap on Read for free. It will open a new page. Here you can follow the author and then tap on Read Now. It will now open the ebook and you can happily enjoy reading it.